So we are the digital overlay team. This week, once again, I've been in contact with our mentor and our sponsor. Our how might we question for this week is how might we simplify our MVP to make it easier to interpret for potential users?
So I'm Mark.
I'm Elizabeth, nursing.
I'm Teresa with writing.
I'm Nahum from engineering.
I'm adult in biology.
And Tony isn't here with us today. He's at a conference.
So our quote for this week is a Kanye quote, if you didn't realize, but it was very applicable to last week because our MVP was challenged greatly, and that made it quite hard for us. But we came together as a team, and we made it better. And, you know, we think it's going to make analysis of situations a lot faster, and that makes our MVP a lot stronger.
All right. So this week, our pains have kind of shifted a little bit, but our gains have stayed the same. We are thinking about scale. Again, we're thinking more about integration with technology and how it changes, and we're also going to look at the handbooks, what's already there, what do we need to change, and how are we going to best present that. Our gains have stayed the same. We want to display on the third dimension, and we want to have a summarized versus a detailed view.
So we've had one of these slides every week, and being this is our last weekly presentation, we just want to kind of reflect on everybody we've been in contact with throughout the semester and thank them for their input and time in dealing with our MVP.
So our first question for the week is, can we conclude that our MVP needs a snapshot of the social media? It was basically what it was making a really simple thing a lot more complex than it needed to be. And is there another way to do that? And we were thinking we can implement that complex data in the augmented reality part of our MVP.
Our second question is how can we incorporate technology that the CDC or Virginia Department of Health uses to map disease processes and or patterns, and that was rejected because the Virginia Department of Health doesn't have any real-time updated version of how disease are moving through the community.
Our third hypothesis, we kind of touched on this a little bit last week, is there technology that's available to support and implement our MVP, and that's confirmed. We plan to do that through D6.
So our value proposition canvas is here. We've changed a few things if you want to go to the next slide. So the big thing that we've added this week is the PACE plan. It basically stands for primary, alternative, contingency, and emergency. It's like the 4 different types of plans that are needed when developing a planned course of action and for a briefing that we're going to be kind of elaborating on this.
How we intend to get buy-in is to show that this is an original idea and that it is a level 3, potentially. And then to get our idea out there, we're going to present it to our sponsors and show our specific designs and how they can implement that into their practices.
So the customer workflow should still stay the same, so focusing on intelligence products being exchanged between creators and users.
All right, so here's our scenario. I want you to imagine you're going to a brand new place and you have a mission. You have some sort of objective you want to get done. And so you arrive in your place and you see everything you already have. You know it's physical. You see the mountains on your right, you see the rivers on your left, you see your men in front of you, and you see the cars behind you. You know everything you have. You see all the physical. But you don't see what's invisible for you. So that's where we want to come in. We want to help you visibly see what is invisible to you. And that's important. Like, are you friendly in the area? That's invisible. That's something you can't exactly see. What we have here is our minimal viable product. And it focuses on the cyber and the social media aspects, and those are invisible. You can't really see them physically. We have 2 different rings on here, a social media ring on the outside and a cyber ring on the inside. If you follow on the inside ring, on the it would be showing that somebody is present on your network, showing that somebody can see within your network, knowing your exact locations within the network, reading your documents, and interpreting your communication. So if you think of it kind of like somebody robbing your house, if you look at 12 o'clock, it's somebody on your property. And as you move down, somebody's looking within your windows. As you go closer, they know which room you're in your house. As you go even closer on there, they can read your books and your magazines. And then finally, they can vandalize and mess with your house. On the outside, on social media, we have blue for positive, red for negative, and then gray for what's your own. So the positive and negative are social media activity outside of your group, your battalion, your whatever. And these are how you're going to measure the invisible. Are you welcomed in the area? Did you run through D Hall? Do the students hit you? You got to find out. Look at social media. You'll find it pretty quickly. And then how you're affecting that. So this is a very two-dimensional kind of quick snapshot of things. And you're thinking, well, I want to know more. I want to know more details. Just how much, at what level am I compromised on the cyber realm? And just how welcomed or unwelcomed am I in the area? And that's where we want to right-click and enter the digital, well, that's what it would look like, snapshotted. And that's where we want to right-click and then go into the third dimension. So. That would come up above, kind of like a pop-up book of that two-dimensional image.
And now we've used the term kind of augmented reality in the third dimension interchangeably, but what you saw in the previous one was augmented reality, but our applications can be also displayed in a computer screen to also get more buy-in for people that augmented reality and kind of putting on a headset might be too much of a barrier to entry to. So by adding kind of like the status bar of, what your current status is on this level, and then as well as on the kind of third dimension augmented reality level, we hope to get to something that kind of displays, on my plans of action, what's my status. So as you can see, the bars in here red means that that part of my plan is kind of pretty much not going well and not going to happen if my main plan is not going to work out. My emergency plan is still good. My contingency plan is still good. And then it shows you kind of the social media activity or like the digital layer activity. And there's a large activity here, but because it's a soft shape or circle, that you're okay. But here you see it kind of like the spike. There's more of a danger in that realm, even though the activity here is a lot smaller than here. And comparable to kind of like sizes to show what that activity and presence is like by the enemy.
A detailed view of the summary.
And then looking ahead to next week, we hope to continue getting feedback from our previous contacts. We're in the mix of making out a survey with a situation that we're going to test them on being able to interpret our visualization and then being able to answer a scenario and a question and figure out where they're compromised and stuff like that. We want to continue getting prepared for our final presentation that's in a couple of weeks. And then finally, we want to integrate, like we were saying, the PACE plan with our augmented reality, being able to get that detailed view and actually get it implemented into augmented reality and put it together with our 2D and have a full working MVP together as well.
That's where we're at.
Great job, guys. Feedback?
I just have a question. So what is like an example of like a negative social media like thing happening that would make it come up like as like a danger?
So there's a difference between like threat detection and how the hearts and minds of the people, and that we're focusing on like the hearts and minds. How welcome will you be in the area? So using the example we talked about a while back, if someone were to say run a car into E-Hall, they probably wouldn't be as welcomed here because many students couldn't go into E-Hall. You'd get all those negative posts. And from there, we'd probably use like trigger words, which we have seen with like battle straight technologies, where you find those trigger words and associate them with a negative connotation, and you can measure how welcome you to be in that area based off of it.
Essentially like sentiment in an area for your people.
I'd say something like a tweet which would be in Arabic, of course, in this case. Damn Americans kicked in my door last night.
Yeah. Okay. And then did you specifically like tag someone of?
Not a positive tweet.
Yeah. And did you potentially tag someone or add someone or include a certain hashtag that has a certain following and connect you to something else?
Can you go back to the right there? So I was with you all semester long until you explained that. And so the problem is, like, I don't, as a commander, I don't want you to tell me that the first, like, our primary plan is good and our emergency plan sucks. That's not the detail I'm looking for. In this kind of status where you're looking at, if you go back again, One more. Okay, so when you're looking at a unit, I want to know that the key things that everybody wants to know about those units is fuel status, food, and the readiness of the equipment. How many broke trucks do you got? If half your trucks are broke, and then people. So those four things all impact the plan, but differently. And as a commander, I'm going to assess how well the plan is going based on those things. But that's the status that I want as a commander: is food, fuel, people, and equipment. So if you go forward, I thought, keep going.
One more.
I thought that's what you were tracking: people, equipment. I didn't know what the C and the A meant, but I thought that's what those things stood for. And when you told me it was plans, you completely lost me, because that's not how Army guys think. I don't get a status of a plan. I get status of stuff.
So variables that go into your plan.
Makes sense?
So variables that impact your plan.
Yeah. Like, and depending on what kind of unit, it'll make, like, if I'm a light infantry unit, I don't have any vehicles. So then I'm worried about other stuff.
Yeah.
But each unit is going to be able to identify which things they want to track, the most important things that they want to track, and there'll be systems in place. And that's what takes them 10 hours to put together a presentation, is getting all that data accurate, so you know exactly how many trucks are broke, how many humans are broke, how much ammunition do you have, how much fuel do you have. That's what takes all the time to put together. If you add to that an assessment of the overall plan, and nobody cares about the emergency plan. Nobody evaluates that. That's something you have it, but until you need it, you don't actually, you're not doing it, right? So those are, that you got lost a little bit on that one, I think.
I think the storytelling is, like, the enthusiasm is there, the clarity is there, again, until we go into the augmented reality, and it begins to feel like a forced fit. So answer me a couple of simple questions. The information in the augmented, in the 3D model, is it the same information as the 2D model, just in more depth, or is it a totally different set of information?
So it would be in more depth, like a right-click detailed view.
But how much more information am I going to find out from seeing it in 3D, even if it's like larger or smaller circles, than just a simple color change and maybe like a digit change within the 2D version?
What we were kind of like talking about like last week was you could potentially also show, because not just in augmented, but like in the third dimension, if you're using augmented reality or not, in the third dimension, you could show kind of like connections of like how if one unit's affected, or if one aspect of their domain is affected, how that connects to another one's kind of like in the top right, you could see the...
Yeah, so like putting a network on top of it, because otherwise you have too much going on. So it kind of just raises it up.
So it's the connection between the various nodes on the map that necessitates the third dimension.
Can I help you out here? What it does is it raises the graphics that are already populating the map. So now I can graphically see what statuses are against what's happening on the map, or what's happening on the CPOP, or what's happening on the COP. All of those tools that I'm using augmented reality, so now I can weigh those against what's actually happening on the ground. That's what that gives me right there.
Yeah. So I'd say, Sean, I understand where you're coming from. Anybody go back a slide. So they've got, 8 units up there. And it is not uncommon for you not to see the map. There's so many units out there that you're tracking, you can't see the map. And so you're trying to track all these details. You can't track all the details on a two-dimensional thing.
This needs to come into the story.
So he and I,
this is not clear.
So we know what they're talking about, because we've been there, seen that. And you can't see the map anymore. I can't tell any details. It's too cluttered.
Okay.
So by bringing it into 3 dimensions gives me the ability to see
That
all
needs
that
to come an
stuff.
awful lot clearer. That switch in mode needs to become a lot clearer, like the potential of what that does.
I would
You're
actually.
getting the storytelling, but it's just like,
I would actually say this is a way that would work in a very sparsely populated, but here's what it often looks like in real life when the American forces are there and they have everybody fully deployed and just bury the thing in symbols. Because you can't.
I'll be honest with you, that if I was dude on the ground, that right there would be fine for me on my GRG.
Yeah, on your little screen, right.
Yeah, on my little screen for me personally, but it gets way more cluttered for what digital overlay is supposed to be at the higher level. It gets way more cluttered. So you need that third dimension.
So he's talking about like at a squad level where you've got, you need to know where the next squad is and where the next platoon is, where the next company is. That's fine.
Yeah.
But when I worked at a division talk and we had screens this big and we had 25,000 troops on the ground that we controlled, plus we had to know the division next door and their 25,000 and Corps headquarters and where all the SOS, all the soft guys were. You just couldn't see anything, and trying to so having it in 3 dimensions would be really helpful.
So you've got like triple the feedback, which is amazing, and I think that reflects what a great job you did at engaging people, so good job.
Yeah.
Great job. 1, 2, 3.